Okay, Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Okay, today we will learn on the chapter 4, which is cost of capital. Okay, untuk chapter ni kita akan bincangkan ataupun kita akan try untuk figure out the cost that have been incurred when the shareholders invest in the company. Maksud dia, cost yang terlibat lepas daripada shareholder invest a capital and amount lah, maksud dia satu amount yang shareholder dah invest dalam company tersebut. Okay, so basically in this chapter online kita akan belajar cost of capital. What is cost of capital? The second is cost of equity. So, apa tu cost of equity? Dia ada dua cara untuk kita kira cost of equity, which is that dividend growth model ataupun CAPM. CAPM ni kita dah belajar on the chapter 2 in risk and return, and cost of debt, overall cost of capital, ada WACC and WMCC, which mean some of students have taken this subject in previous semester, if I'm not mistaken. So they already learn on the WACC, which means that ada setengah student dah ambil this subject. So diorang dah belajar a part which means that WACC. So kita akan belajar balik in this MAF 603, and the fourth, the circumstances use WACC in investment appraisal. This one is more on the theory, and the application of CAPM in project specific cost of capital. Okay, this one also we will learn in this topic. Okay, so mostly kebanyakan yang dalam ni more kepada calculation. So I hope that everyone can do some exercise to enhance ataupun untuk encourage dia punya skill dalam calculations. Okay, so for today we only cover for the two subtopic, which is that cost of capital and cost of equity. Okay, so first of all you have to know ataupun kita kena flashback on the first chapter we will learn in the MAF 603, which means that the objective of the corporate finance adalah untuk maximize of shareholder wealth. So how to maximize of shareholder wealth? By make the investment decision, financing decision and dividend decisions. So first thing you have know what is cost of capital. So you have to know what's the words of capital itself. Capital adalah satu amount yang telah diberikan daripada shareholders kepada organisation itself. So capital have been invested by the shareholders. Who is shareholders? Shareholders is the owner of the company. So after you know what is capital, you have to make sure or you have to remember that they also have a cost of capital. What the example of the cost of capital? It is a cost of debt and cost of equity. This one we will learn on this chapter. So I will explain cost and equity and cost of debt after this slide. So you have to make sure you know what is the cost of capital. So the cost of capital might help you to choose a project, which means that to make the decision on the investment. And the second one, how to invest, how to finance a project by doing the financing decisions. Okay, so this is the cost of capital. What is the mean of cost of capital? It is a rate that must be earned at a given level of risk in order to satisfy its investor. So the required rate of return that a firm must at least earn to cover the cost of raising fund from its investor, which means that required rate of return yang telah dapat oleh firm at least kena cover dia punya cost of raising fund from its investor. So this cost include of two, which is cost of equity and cost of debt. So after this kita akan go through satu-satu what is cost of equity and what is cost of debt. So dalam cost of capital, you have to know the individual firms or kita boleh tahu parties apa yang terlibat dalam cost of capital. The first one, the cost of internal common equity, which means that we also state as KE. So, cost of internal common equity, dia more kepada dalam company. For example, dalam satu syarikat, kita ada shareholders sendiri, which means that the owner of the company. So the shareholders we call as common equity, internal common equity. But for the cost of external common equity, it means that dia adalah orang luar. Contohnya, a company ataupun our company want to do some projects ataupun company kita nak buat project amount 500,000, but the capital ataupun capital yang diberikan oleh shareholders tak mencukupi, which means that mungkin capital untuk company ada 300,000, then project yang kita nak buat 500,000, so that the amount is not enough to cover up the project. So we have to do some new shares. We have to produce a new shares so that orang luar boleh beli kita punya share. So then kita akan dapat enough investment ataupun kita akan dapat enough earnings untuk continue kita punya project. So it means kita dapat share daripada orang luar. Itu yang we call as external common equity, and we also known as KNE. And the third one is cost preferred stock. So we also known as KP. Preferred stock ni maksud dia orang-orang yang luar lah. So cost preference stock, which means that cost of preference shareholders. And the fourth is cost of debt. Cost of debt ni lebih kepada kita hutang. Bondholder ataupun kita boleh kata sebagai debt holder. This also can affect kita punya cost of capital. So the fourth cost is under the cost of capital. The computation of the above cost can be either with or without flotation cost. So, what is flotation cost? Flotation cost, saya ada terangkan sikit tadi, cost yang relate to issue the equity. Maksud dia, contoh, legal cost, audit fees, account fees. So that, maksud contoh-contoh ni, that the cost yang the firm have to pay in order to employ the professional person to help in preparing the financial statement. So cost-cost yang terlibat dari segi legal fees ke, dari segi account fees, dari audit fees, everything have been computed in the cost. Okay, so in this chapter, we will learn on the WACC, which means that weighted average cost of capital. Ni adalah the main thing untuk kita kira dalam topik ni. So this is the main the main formula ataupun the main thing we have, the main formula that we have to use in order to calculate the cost of capital. So, apa tu WACC? It is an optimal capital structure is the mix of debt, preferred, common equity that cause the stock price of the firm to be maximized. It is also known as the weighted average cost of capital. It is an average of the individual firm's cost of capital multiplied with weight of the financing from all investors, including creditors and stockholders. So, this actually a step how we calculate the WACC. So, WACC is a mix of hutang, debt, preferred, and common equity. So, we have to calculate these three type of cost yang kita ada belajar tadi. Cost of internal common stock, cost of common external stock, and the other three lah, which means that cost of preferred stock and cost of debt. So what is the step? Okay, this is the step how you want to calculate WACC. So you have to follow all these steps. The first, you have to calculate after-tax cost of capital of the individual component C or C of the firming financing. So the first step kita akan kira untuk first step. So untuk kita kira first step, we have to know what is cost of equity. Okay, this one is more on the illustrations. So, illustration, apa yang ditunjukkan kat sini? Weightage. Weightage means this one is, kita dah bagi tahu tadi WACC is mix of the cost of debt, preferred stock and common equity. Dalam common equity ni, dia selalunya akan campur sekali. Maksudnya internal dalam ni, external dalam ni, and returns earning pun dalam ni. Ataupun satu lagi dia ada tulis ordinary share, premium share. So everything kalau dalam soalan kadang-kadang dia tak tulis as common equity, kadang-kadang dia just tulis ordinary share, premium share, return earning, everything yang saya sebutkan ni. I hope that all of you take note that common equity, item dalam common equity boleh jadi ordinary share, premium share, return earnings. So this one we conclude as one, which is that common equity. So the weightage, weight dia macam biasalah, kalau you kira dia kena 100%. And the cost component 7.26, 10 and 19. Macam mana kita kira this one? They will give in the questions. Ataupun kita kena kira lah. Selalunya kita akan, after this you have, I will try to explain to you, dia ada formula how we want to calculate the cost of debt, how we want to calculate the preference stock, how we want to calculate the common equity. So this one based on the formula, so that they are use the cost of retained earnings as the equity component instead of cost of new common equity, since this is the lowest cost for the equity. So after kita dah kira pakai formula in this one, we will times you akan dapat this one. So after you times weightage and component cost, you will get the WACC sebanyak 15.615. So what is cost of equity? The cost of equity is the annual return expected expected by ordinary shareholders in the form of dividend and the share price growth. Maksud dia, ordinary shareholders, dia boleh jadi dua, which is that internal shareholders or external shareholders. So, apa yang expectation by the ordinary shareholders adalah in form of dividends and share price growth. So, however, share price growth is assumed to occur when shareholder expectations are raised about future dividend. So, dalam cost of equity, kita boleh namakan ada capital gainers dengan dividend gainers. What is capital gainers is, I just state here, capital gainers. CG. So, capital gainers, dia adalah orang yang expectation dia, the share price will be increased. Contoh, dia beli RM RM1. Dia expect untuk share price yang dia akan dapat adalah RM1.50. When there is a good news. So, kita ada belajar lah EMH kan. Kalau share price dia akan meningkat when there is the new information, which mean that there is a good news of the company. Tapi, kalau untuk dividend gainers, okay, I put here as DG. Okay, DG is dividend gainers. Dividend gainers ni adalah orang yang dia bersabar sikit lah, sebab dia just tunggu untuk firm declare the dividend. Once the firm belum lagi declare dia punya dividend, so the shareholders akan tunggu je lah sampai the firm announce the amount of dividend yang diorang akan dapat. So, if future dividends are expected to increase, the share price will also increase over time. At any time, the share price will be explained as a present value of all future dividend expectation. So, maksud dia sama lah. Kalau future dividend expect increase, the share price also akan increase lah. Sebab because of new information, dividend naik, so the share price akan naik lah sebab good news. Ni yang kita dah belajar dalam EMH. Okay, so there are two types of cost of equity. There are the dua type of cost equity, which means that internal common equity and external common equity. We known as KE and KNE. Okay, K stand for cost. Okay, so jangan tanya kenapa kita guna KE, KNE, sebab memang the past researcher have come out the words like this. So memang kita dah classify benda ni macam ni. KE for internal, for external, KNE. So estimate the cost of equity using two models. So kita akan use untuk estimate the cost of equity by these two model. So we will go through apa tu cost of internal common equity. So, the cost of internal common equity is the rate of return current common stockholder require on their capital that the firm obtain by the retained earnings. Okay, contoh dia macam ni. Company, kan dia akan dapat profit. Profit tu kita call as retained earning. Profit contoh kalau dia dapat RM500,000. And then, the cost of internal common equity is rate of return the current common shareholders required on their capital. So, apa rate of return yang diorang akan dapat based on retained earning? So, why do we assign a cost to the retained earning? Kenapa kita kena ada cost untuk retained earning? So, sebab the common shareholders own the firm. So, the common shareholders own the firm. after the firm pay interest to the bondholders and pay dividend to the preference shareholders, any excess of net income belong to common shareholders. Okay, so kenapa kita assign cost untuk retained earnings? All the excess of the net income can be distributed to the common shareholder as dividend, and they can themselves invest the money in other securities. However, if no dividend is paid and all the net income is being retained in the firm is using the shareholders' money to finance future investment of the firms. Okay, actually, dalam firm ni, I want to make it you clear, dalam company memang kita ada shareholders. Shareholders adalah owners, the owner of the firm. Tapi dia tak manage the firm. Yang manage the firm adalah manager, ataupun we also known as board of director. So, shareholder tak ada hak ataupun tak ada right untuk tetapkan berapa dividen yang dia patut dapat. Tapi, orang yang berhak membuat keputusan tentang berapa dividen yang akan dapat kepada shareholders adalah BOD. So, sebab BOD yang manage the company, BOD yang tahu what is the return earning dalam the company, so BOD yang akan buat keputusan berapa banyak shareholders akan, ordinary shareholder akan dapat the dividend for that year. So, actually, the firm ataupun the BOD takkan bagi kesemua kepada shareholders. Contoh, kalau dia dapat keuntungan 500,000 and then dia dah bayar dekat dia punya bondholder, dia dah bayar dekat dia punya preference shareholder, so baki tu tinggal 300,000. Dia takkan bayar dekat dia punya shareholders, ordinary shareholders yang ada dalam company, the owner, yang kita tahulah the owner of the company. Dia takkan bayar kesemua yang 300,000. But, diorang akan bayar mungkin the half of the 300,000 ke. So that, kenapa diorang buat macam tu? Sebab diorang nak simpan sikit duit ataupun diorang nak simpan a little of the capital untuk invest this one. The firm is using the shareholders' money to finance future investment of the firm. So, apa yang diorang akan buat? Diorang akan simpan sikit duit tu untuk kegunaan masa depan. Contoh kita, dia akan try untuk guna money tu untuk the next project. So, that's why the BOD takkan bagi kesemua amount of the return earning kepada shareholders yang berada dalam diorang punya company. So, dari perspektif the shareholders, the shareholders expect the firm would give them return at least equivalent to other investment somewhere else, which means that the owner dalam company kita pun mesti expectation diorang daripada mungkin diorang invest 100,000. So, diorang nak dividen yang diorang dapat tu mungkin more than 60% daripada apa yang diorang invest. So that it means that kalau dia invest dekat company lain pun dia akan dapat 60%. So, sama risk kalau diorang invest dalam company kita ataupun dia invest dekat orang luar. So, this is an opportunity cost of finance involved because it is minimum return that investor require. If they do not get this return, kalau diorang tak dapat return, they will transfer some of all their investment somewhere else, ataupun dia akan tarik balik dia punya investment so that dia akan invest dekat the others company yang will give more benefit to them. So what is cost of external common equity? So cost of external equity finance to the company is the return of the investor expect to achieve on their shares. Maksud dia, cost of external equity dia lebih kepada contoh kalau company tu tak cukup duit untuk buat new project, as I been explained before. So bila company tak cukup nak invest ataupun tak cukup untuk cover up the project using the return earning, so company will issue new share. So bila dia issue a new share, dia akan try untuk hire someone else ataupun dia akan hire expertise untuk try untuk cari investor dekat dia. So itu akan incur flotation cost. So sebab tu kita cakap untuk cost external common equity dia akan terlibat dalam financial flotation cost. Tapi kalau KE dia tak ada FC. So dia flotation cost dia tak wujud dalam KE sebab dia tak ada incur apa-apa cost untuk promote dia punya share. So this one disebabkan project ataupun returns earning tak cukup, and then they have to cover up dia punya project, they have to incur some cost, which means that they have to appoint someone else to get a new share. So the cost of new common stock in external common equity will slightly higher than the cost of retained earning ataupun cost of KE tadilah. So cost untuk external is more higher because of the flotation cost. Okay, this one is KE lah, cost of retained earning. Okay, in estimating cost of equity, we have two model, which is that DGM, which is dividend growth model, and CAPM. So for now we just focus on dividend growth model. So DGM can be used to estimate a cost of equity on the assumption the market value of share is directly related to the expected future dividends from the share. So macam kita belajar dalam chapter lepas lah, the market value of share can be directly reflect daripada future dividend from the share. So shareholder will normally expect dividend to increase year by year, which means that the dividend has been growth. So this one kita bahasakan dia as G. And not to remain constant in perpetuity. So the fundamental theory of share value states that the market price of share is the present value of discounted future cash flow of revenues from the share dividend. So theory of share state yang kata market price of share, MV of share adalah PV, present value of discounted future cash flow of revenues from the share dividend. Note, the relevant growth rate is a future growth rate anticipated by shareholders. In the absence of specific information, the future growth rate is assumed to be based on the past growth rate. Kalau tak ada apa-apa sebarang information, the future growth rate ataupun relevant growth rate, dia akan assume to be based on the past growth rate. Okay, so next kita tengok macam mana dia kira dalam untuk estimate cost of equity untuk internal, kita guna by using the formula of DGM tadi. So kita belajar sekarang dividend, growth model, DGM. So macam mana kita use the formula untuk calculate the cost of equity untuk internal. So the market value give an expected constant growth in dividend would be, okay, this one is the formula. So PO stand for price. Price, kalau price kita kena kira dalam RM lah. So you ingat kalau price, this one kita nak kira the price of dividend. So PO sama dengan DO. What is DO? DO adalah the dividend last year. What is D1? D1 adalah expected dividend pay by next year. D1, DO if dividend is expected to pay next year, DO times with 1 plus G. If dividend has paid last year, so we have to incorporate growth for current year. So this one is the formula untuk kira dividend, growth in dividend. G stand for growth. So sekarang kita rearranging, kita ubah the formula. Sebab sekarang ni kita nak cari internal. Internal is KE. KE is we also known as internal. So KE equal to DO 1 plus G. You have to divide KE minus G. You have to add G. So this one you have to add G. Kalau untuk kita kira cost of equity untuk internal. Kalau you perasan, dekat atas kita tak ada plus G kat belakang. So kalau untuk kira cost of equity for internal, kita kena buat plus G. So when you watch this video, I hope you have to list out the formula. Sama juga macam chapter 2, you kena keluarkan the formula. You state that for internal and DGM, apa formula yang kita pakai untuk DGM untuk calculate the cost of equity untuk internal. Okay, so next. Okay, this one is example. So kita baca, a share has current market value RM96. So this one is market value. And the last dividend was RM12. So dividend dia dah bagi RM12. This one is, sebab the word last, so this one is DO. If the expected annual growth rate adalah 4%, so you put this as G. This one is G sebab dia growth rate. And calculate the cost of equity capital. So you have to calculate for internal. So you put the information into the formula and you will get 70%. The ordinary share is currently selling at RM30 per share. Last year, Precinct paid dividend RM2 per share, and it will grow at a constant rate of 8%. So this one is G. And this one last year. The word last year, so it means that the dividend is DO. And this one is the selling price, which means that market value. So you put in the formula and you will get off 15.2%. So next, okay, this one how you want to calculate by using DGM juga sekarang. By using DGM, it's still kita kira by dividend growth model. So DGM, so So the cost of external equity usually slightly higher than internal equity due to flotation costs, and FC is cost incurred when a company issue new shares such as brokerage fees, underwriting fees, legal fees, sometimes also known as issuance cost atau underwriting cost. So kadang-kadang dalam soalan it might nak confusekan you, dia akan letak issuance cost ataupun underwriting cost. So you can take note this one. So you boleh tulis ataupun for your own notes, FC also can be known as issuance cost ataupun underwriting cost. So kita akan rearrange balik the formula for cost of equity untuk external. So, okay, so I want you to exchange this. Ubah yang ni. This one akan jadi K and E. Ni pun sama. Dia akan jadi K and E juga. Sebab kita tengah kira untuk external. External we have to put for K and E. So you change KE to K and E. Equal to DO, sama juga formula macam tadi. Dia sama je dengan internal, yang beza dia kenapa? Sebab dalam external, saya dah tekankan tadi, dalam external dia terlibat dalam flotation cost. So the difference adalah dekat this one. So you have to calculate this one. So NPO, okay, this one you have to change also. This one NPO. NP kosong maksud dia market price minus flotation cost. Okay, this one pun you have to change NP0. So NP0 equals sama dengan market price minus dengan flotation cost. Okay, so kita tengok contoh dia macam mana. Okay, so example, a company share are valued at 5 ringgit X dividend. Dividend grows 6%, so this one is G. The current dividend is 50 cents. The flotation cost is 50 cents per share. So, kita masukkan dalam formula. Formula dia adalah DO. Where is DO? So, dividend grows 6%. The current dividend adalah 15 cents. So, 15 cents is this one. 1 tambah 0.06, which means that this one is G. And you divide by 5 ringgit minus 15 cents sebab ada flotation cost. You times with the 0.06. Okay, so you have to calculate first. So you will get the answer of okay, so this one is silap. So you have to put as 0.5. It is a typing error, so you put F as 50 cents. You times with the sebab DO kan. So bila DO, so you have to put here as 0.5 times with 1 plus 0.06 divide by 5 ringgit minus 0.56 and plus with the 0.06, so you will get 17.8%. So the example 2, the ordinary share are currently selling at 30 ringgit per share. Last year, President paid dividend 2 ringgit per share. It will grow at constant of 8%. If a new share, ordinary share to be issued, the flotation cost is 10%. Okay, soalan ni sama dengan soalan cost of equity untuk internal. Cuma yang dia add on adalah this one part, this part. If you can refer into your slide, so you can see that this one is a new information. So yang tadi kita dah kata current selling is the market price RM30. Last year paid dividend, so this one is DO. And grow at a constant is G. And flotation cost is FC. So, kita masukkan di dalam formula so that kalau dia kata flotation cost 10% daripada selling price. So, 10%, okay, ni you just delete the percent here. Just ambil 10% darab dengan 30. So, this one you will get RM3. So, after you calculate, you will get 16%. So, apa yang kita boleh buktikan? Kan tadi kita dah cakap, which is the external akan include higher cost rather than internal. Jadi, kalau kita compare, if you can refer to your slide, yang tadi, the percentage kita akan dapat 15.2%. You can refer on the slide of estimating cost of equity yang kita buat example 2 untuk internal kita akan dapat 15.2%. So this one is 16%. So ini adalah as evidence yang membuktikan the cost of equity untuk external is more higher rather than internal because of the flotation cost. Okay. Next, kita akan masuk of the how to estimate the cost of equity untuk preference share. Yang tadi kita fokus on the common share. Common share yang ada internal dengan external. Sekarang kita try untuk kira untuk preference share. But sebelum kita try untuk kira preference share, kita kena tahu dulu apa tu preference share and what is the requirement. So this is required rate of return that must earn to satisfy the preference shareholders. The fixed rate of dividend paid before ordinary share mean that preference shares are often treated as a form of lending similar to irredeemable debentures. The main difference between preference shares and debt is that the preference dividend payment are not tax deductible. Okay, apa beza preference share dengan debt? Sebab kita ada belajar tadi cost of preference share dengan cost of debt. Cost of preference share kita takkan kira, maksudnya tax are not deductible. Kita takkan minus with the tax untuk preference share. Tapi kalau untuk cost of debt kita akan deduct tax. Sebab memang kalau dalam untuk calculation untuk cost of debt kita akan belajar in the next slide. So sekarang we focus on the preference share. So what is different with preference share and debt is the calculation of the tax deductible. So the formula yang kita akan guna dalam preference share adalah dividend minus with net market price. So net market price, which means that this one is NP0. NP0 which means that market price must be minus with flotation cost. Dalam preference share juga kita have to include the FC. Sebab it might include of the legal fees, apa-apa yang berkaitan dengan surat perjanjian akan melibat dengan legal fees. So this one, legal fees is the cost of the equity. So we have to include in the formula. We have to deduct the flotation cost. Okay, so this is the example of the estimate cost of equity in preference share. So for example 1, issue 15% preference share at discount of 3% at par value. So sekarang ni dia dah cakap kita kena ingat balik the formula. The formula adalah dividend divide by NP0. So this is the formula. So kita kena classify balik what is the dividend in the questions. And kita baca balik. And additional fees associated of the issuance of preferred share is 2% of par value. So kalau additional fees, kita dah simply boleh tahu this one is flotation cost sebab additional fees. And the par value preference share is RM100. So kita tahu this one is the preference share is the price lah, market price. Tapi this one we call as at a par value. So dia ada dua tips yang you kena tahu. So I hope that everyone can take note the tips. So first one, kalau kita nak tahu dia dividend untuk preference share, dia ada tulis macam ni, 50% of preference share. So we know that this one is the dividend. So you have to know bila ada at par value, 15% have to time with the par value. Dia tak boleh times with the market price. Dia tak boleh. Kalau dalam dividend, kita tak boleh, contoh kalau dia kata kat sini 15% preference share at par value, tapi bawah ni dia ada tulis selling price RM50, par value RM30. So you have to times with the par value. You tak boleh darab with the market price. So 50% you will time with the 100, so you will get 15. So what is 15? You have to know that kalau dividend, jawapan dia memang dalam RM. Tapi kalau dalam KNE, KP, KE, kita jawapan dalam percentage. You have to remember. Jangan you pergi tulis dekat bawah ni RM RM15.70. So jawapan dia in percentage. So yang bawah, macam ni kita nak tahu dia punya NPO. NPO which mean that market price will be minus with flotation cost. MP minus FC. MP adalah, sebab kat sini dia just state as par value, so you take 100. Tapi you kena tengok dia ada diskaun 3%. So you have to deduct. You can calculate 3% times with the 100. You akan dapat 3 lah kan. So bila diskaun, kita kena tolak lah kan. Sebab nama pun diskaun. 100 minus 3, you akan dapat 97%. So sama je. Kalau you use this formula, sama je. You akan dapat 97%. So minus dengan flotation cost. Sebab dia dah kata 2% times with 100. So you akan dapat 97 minus 2, you will get 15.70%. This is for example 1. For example 2, the current share price of preference stock is selling at 120. The dividend paid is RM4.65 per share. The additional 2% of market value per share also need to be paid as flotation cost. So sekarang ni it is very simple sebab soalan ni direct terus. Dia dah beritahu market price adalah RM120. Dividend dia dah beritahu RM4.65 per share, and additional 2% adalah FC. So you just put everything in the formula and you will get RM3.95. Okay, so the second is the CAPM. So ni kita guna pula CAPM model. Okay, CAPM model ni kita dah belajar dalam chapter tu. So, apa formula yang kita pakai? Kita pakai balik yang required return untuk kira cap M. So, dalam cap M, kita akan known as KE. Hari tu kita ada belajar, if I'm not mistaken, we put as RI. Kalau you tengok balik formula dalam kita punya chapter tu. Tapi dalam chapter ni kita nak kira cost. Bila kita nak kira cost untuk firm, this one kita calculate untuk investor kan. Tapi sekarang ni untuk topik ni kita nak kira dari segi firm. So cost untuk firm. So you have to put ataupun known as KE equal. So formula sama lah. This one beta risk free plus with the beta and then you have to minus with the market return minus with the risk free rate. Ataupun kita call as market premium. Market premium. So kalau macam yang tunjuk yang bawah ni, example tu beta dia dah bagi, masukkan beta. And then market risk premium dia dah bagi. This one yang I cakap, kalau kita ambil market return divide minus with the risk free rate, you akan dapat market premium. So in this example tu dia dah bagi market premium, so you just put 6% and the risk free is 4%, you will get 9.4%. Okay. I think that's all for the video for part 1, so that I hope everyone can do some revision on this topic, so that everyone will get more clear understanding and everything. If you are not understand, you may ask me. And that's all. Thank you and have a nice day.